Welcome to another episode of our Back to Life podcast in Season 3. I am your host, Danny Bader, and I'm excited for our next guest, Dr. Haley Perlus. Dr. Haley and I met about 7 or 8 years ago, and I've followed her work and stayed in touch. With knowledge and personal experience as an elite athlete, coach, fitness professional, entrepreneur, and a PhD in sports psychology, and an overall wellness enthusiast, Dr. Haley provides her clients with the necessary mental toughness and tools to achieve their highest level of performance in sports, in business, and in life. Listen in as Dr. Haley shares with us how to create new habits, the importance of making choices based on your top 3 strengths, and why 3 is the right number, how to change your mental blocks, your negative stories, and make them into more useful ones to support your growth and achievement, and much, much more. So get your pen, get ready to take some notes as I chat with my friend, Dr. Haley Perlus. Hi, Haley. Thanks a lot for joining us. I appreciate it. I just gave an intro about who you are and what your qualifications are for our audience, and I'm sure they're excited. So thanks a lot for being here.
Danny, it's so much fun to be back with you, and looking forward to where we go from here.
Yes. Yes, I like it. You know, you and I met several years ago, and then we got together for lunch out there in the Rockies, and I've kind of followed your work a little bit, and I just think it's amazing. It's so fascinating how the mind, right, how we think, how we develop new habits really connects to our success in so many areas. So you work with people to get them to the best version of themselves, to get them to achieve the outcomes they desire in sports is kind of your foundation. And then, but also in life and also in business. What do you see as some of the challenges right now for people to do that? What are they bumping up against when you work with them?
Fear. I think fear is a big one, but that's really a common one. I don't think that would be anything new that people would hear about. I really want to help people conquer their fears by really focusing on their strengths. So like you said, my background is sports. So I bring sports science to performance in any industry and anything that we're pursuing. Mm-hmm. And when I think about professional athletes, they get out on the field with one focus, and that's to highlight their strengths. In training, they can work on their weaker areas, but in competition and performance, they go out there and highlight their strengths. Mm-hmm. And that's what I really want to help encourage people to do. And then that takes the focus away from their fears. Mm-hmm. And then helps them to focus on things that they can control, highlight their strengths.
Mm. So how would they go? I mean, that's great. I've heard many times that your area of greatest opportunities in the area of your greatest strength, right? Whatever you're really good and strong at, just go even be better at that, kind of be world class. If people are nodding their heads right now, myself included,
me too.
how do you get them to evaluate their strengths? Is it an instrument that's out there? Do you have something on your internet? Is it a book or your website rather? How would people really sit back and go, okay, yeah, what are my 2, 3, 4 strengths that I should live more into?
You had it right in the middle, 3. That's the number. So I really, really want to spend time asking ourselves whether it's going back and looking at our past performances and picking out the 3 things that we did well, mm-hmm. Or the 3 skill sets that we're working on right now that we can highlight. But the magic number is 3, and there's a reason, if I can share.
Please.
In psychology of persuasion, the science says that the confused mind says no. And anything more than 3, our mind starts to get confused. Too many options, too many things to focus on. The only time where more than 3 works is when you go tasting gelato. Like you go to the gelato shop and more flavors the better.
Yeah, you think about like gelato or chocolate covered pretzels, all the variations of them.
So, wow. And then also with the and then with
go ahead.
So if we focus on 3, if we can really pinpoint it down 3, it's no longer just go out there and do your best. Because what does that really mean? I like the concept because it's not about being perfect. It's about being your best. Mm-hmm. But what does that really mean? It's not measurable. It's not tangible. Mm-hmm. But if we can pinpoint our 3 strengths, now I have direction. When I have direction, I'm more inclined to take action. And other things like fear won't get in the way as much.
Mm. It's interesting. I just was talking with somebody last week and did a couple of posts around boundaries, right? Setting boundaries, which really is about saying no to certain things. And, the conversation was really good because, you're just reminding me right now, for me and for anybody listening right now, what is it that you really do well within the framework of your business, within the framework of your, your life, your relationships, your family. And probably a good opportunity to say no to some of those other things that show up that, are shiny and bright and look real cool, but might not be worth the investment of your energy, huh?
Well, and then those are the things that you can outsource too. So, for example, I just started Instagram. I know I'm late to the party. I've had I've had my own mental blocks around it, but I'm about 5 weeks in,
Yes.
and I know that my strength is creating the content. I want to be the one creating the content, but posting it and the search engine optimization and all these things, I want to understand the language, but that's not where I shine. So
Sure.
that's a good opportunity for me to outsource, and then I can focus on what I do best, highlighting my strengths.
Yeah, yeah. I like the Instagram too. I mean, we'll talk a little bit about your blog and the short videos you do. The mental toughness and stuff. How did you get into this? I mean, what's your background? Obviously, you're an athlete coming up. Give everybody just a little bit of who's Haley.
Yeah, I was fortunate when I was 12 years old. I was a competitive alpine ski racer, and I was competing in what would be considered the world championships for my age group. And my coach came up to me right before I'm about to compete, pulls out $100 bill, and told me that he had bet on me to win.
Wow.
And
And you're
in
12
that,
years old.
and I'm 12 years old. So that
Oh,
can go
I
one of
keep
two
going. I got to
ways.
hear how this plays out.
Well, everyone listening and watching, it can go one of two ways. One is, oh no, right? How could he bet on you? What kind of coach does that? What if I make a mistake? Or it could go, wow, if my coach believes in me, why shouldn't I believe in myself?
Ah, I like that.
So I went down, I did win, which was great. My coach congratulated me, kept the $100 for himself.
Yes.
But he said to me, it's amazing what your performance can be like when you get your head straight. He then brought a sports psychologist to come and speak to my team. And at 12 years old, I decided that that's what I wanted to do when I grew up. And so I have stayed the course.
Wow. And then where'd you go to school? Where'd you study for sports psychology and all?
So I'm Canadian. So I started off in Canada, the University of Western for undergrad in a city called London, just outside of Toronto. Then I went to University of Florida for my master's and missed skiing. So then I quickly moved to Colorado for my PhD, which is where I currently am.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. That's good. And I know you work, we'll talk with people. You do a lot of coaching one-on-one. You do some keynotes in organizations. And you and I are kind of kindred spirits in our quest to support people. And organizations is kind of a good platform, right? Because they would bring in speakers. And I think it's great that corporate America now is focusing more on that, on the mental health and the well-being for people. So the organization is playing a role by by providing resources for them, I guess. What are your thoughts, Haley, on when we talk about mental health and wellness and stress and all those things? What's the responsibility of the organization and or the leader of that team? And what's the responsibility of the individual to saying, I probably should get off my ass and do a little bit more work on myself. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, great question. I think of every business, every organization as a team.
Mm-hmm.
And like sport teams, even though not every team does this, but I think it's not, when it comes to mental training and mental health, the psychology of performance and happiness and overall being, it is part of everything else. It is as important as your technical and skill development. So just as I encourage sport teams to have sports psychology as part of the training, I love when organizations do that as well. And then it is 100% the responsibility of the individual to learn and to implement and to engage in the training. So I encourage the companies to do that. I think that's great, but the responsibility ends up on the person who's going to make the most of it.
Yeah, that's cool. So let's jump in a little bit now to some good takeaways that we can provide for the audience. And I was watching everybody you want to check out. Haley, tell us, and we'll wrap up towards the end, but tell us again your website right now so folks can write it down.
That's just my name, but drhaleyperlus.com, DrHaleyPerlus.com, drhaleyperlus.com.
Yeah, so everybody should check that out. I actually I signed up for your newsletter this morning. Our daughter runs at University of Virginia after running at University of Penn. And she's had some injuries and all. And certainly, the mental side of things is always somewhere we need to focus. So I shot your information over to her this morning and she said she was going to check it out. So that's cool.
Thank you.
You have a blog, Mental Toughness Moment, that I have watched. And it's for everybody out there. It's short videos that are around 2 minutes, maybe a little bit more. It doesn't even feel that much. And Haley's very creative in how she shoots them. She's either on a bike, she's on a bridge, she's on a hike or something. So I would encourage you to check them out. One that I saw that I really liked, you talked about what you recently learned from your 100-year-old grandmom, your grandmother, who still FaceTimes with you. I'll be 60 next month, or November, next month. So I'm thinking, man, what will I be doing at 100? So what did you learn from your grandmother, who looks like a wonderful soul? She just looks so cool.
Oh my goodness, I learned so much from her. But yes, at 100 years old, she's FaceTime with me. She still lives by herself, but she said something to me. And she says, you people. So I love it. She goes, you people have too many choices.
Yes.
We didn't have as many choices, and I think we were happier.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I think we live in a world where we have the luxury of choice, right? We get to decide, we get to look at options, we get to explore. But I think then we don't really actually then make the choice and commit, or we don't give it enough time. And so we look for the next option, the next choice, without really giving this first choice a valued effort.
When you work with your clients and they have all these different options for choices, what guides them? Does it come back to those three strengths again? Choose something to get into your three strengths. How do you coach them up on saying, hey, a lot of options right now. Let's make sure we make more, because nobody wakes up in the morning and says, oh my gosh, I want to go make some poor choices today, about what I eat, right? So
Yeah.
how do you coach them up on that?
Yeah, and to your point, I really think that we all have the best intentions for ourselves, and we all have the ability to develop the skill set if we don't already have it. But you really nailed it. I do believe in coming back to the fundamentals. In sports, athletes always say that it comes back to the fundamentals. And no matter if you're pursuing sport or wellness or business or relationship, you too have fundamentals. And it is those three strengths. It is those three things that make you who you are. And so before you're about to make a different choice to your environment, changing teams, changing jobs, changing relationship, ask yourself, have you really gone out there in that pursuit with your strengths? Are you really giving it that type of effort? And then if it's still not working, if it's taking things away, if you're not being able to really chip away at it, perhaps then we can look at alternatives. And there might be. I actually right now am working with two different people. One made a change in their environment and it worked out great. The other one, that saying, wherever you go, there you are.
Yes.
So, for this person, that person is experiencing that. It doesn't matter where she goes because she's not doing the taking responsibility for what she contributes.
Yeah. So interesting. So interesting for sure. Where have you ever made some choices that maybe you go, oh, that wasn't the best one, and what did you learn from it? Any stories?
Oh, well, I almost got kicked out of my PhD program.
What's that?
I almost got kicked out of my doctorate program.
Interesting.
Yes. And so it's funny. I chose the school for the climate. I've always really appreciated work-life balance. I have very big, ambitious goals for myself professionally, but I also have very big, ambitious goals for me personally.
Right.
And so when I chose my PhD program, and I really went for that balance, and I wanted to do applied practical work, and my advisor wanted me to do more research, and there was a disconnect there, and it worked out okay. But 2 years in, she told me that I should probably look at a different school because this wasn't the right fit. So that would have been a choice that I made. We made a deal. We bargained a little bit. We made a deal where I would do some research, but then I also could teach and do more practical work. We both had needs, and we met each other's needs.
Right. But yeah, I love that, and I'm glad that you got what you got. And you're here as a PhD because I think you're doing some great work in the world for people. Again, though, that comes back to your choices and your strengths. What do you like? A lot of people don't like research. They like taking the research and crafting it into a story and a keynote and offering it to people, but to sit and do the research and crunch it. So good. There's some good things right there. How do you go? Like, who comes to you and says, Dr. Haley, I need help. Like, how do they know they need help? Or what questions do you ask them about why they're even talking to you? How do you kind of engage with that first phase?
Sure. So for me, and I'm so appreciative of this, it's a lot of referrals, but somebody has to have a problem. No one comes to me saying that they're great. Very seldom does someone come to me and say that they're great. Usually they have some type of mental block and then they come to me. But I love, what you and I do in the organizations, because companies that do bring us to a group of people, whether they need it or not, they get to listen to us, and then they get to just internalize, and then they wonder, oh, you know what, I'm doing okay, but maybe I could do better.
Right.
And so that often sparks. So when I go and deliver a keynote or a training to a group of people that didn't necessarily choose it, that got, that were basically told that they're going to go listen to Haley for,
Sure,
45
sure.
minutes to
Yes.
6 hours. It's interesting, a spark that can go off. And so that's wonderful, because I'm a big believer that we don't have to hit rock bottom. We don't have to.
Right.
If we're just open-minded, there's always things that we can do to find some more growth. It's that growth mindset, right?
Right. Yeah, I'm just taking some notes here. You don't need to hit rock bottom. I'd like to say that again for everybody, because sometimes it's that slippery slope we get on and we just keep going, and we get despair, we get hopeless, and all these things negative. We're not getting the support that we need from key people in our lives. And then, as you said, we do hit rock bottom. And that's, the chapter of my first book is Rock Bottom is a Hell of a Place. And
I know.
you either stay there, right, and perish almost, or you kind of get up, you bounce, whatever you say. So I think that's cool. So how do you get started with them then? When they say, Haley, I need some help, I got to get to the next level. Do you go, I want to get into your thinking, the mental blocks, but does it start first with vision, with goals to say, okay, we're going to work together for 6 months or a year? And what needs to be true at that point for you? How do you get into that?
Yeah, that's a great answer, with a great question with not a great answer, because I do not believe in one size fits all. So definitely for the first month, I want to meet every week so that we can build rapport, we can build trust, we can build momentum. And then once that month is over, it really depends on how we're going to move forward. But I'm a big believer in behavior. So yes, psychology, but it's behavior. So even in the first session, it's of course me getting to know you and listening, but then we're going to start acting. We're going to start doing, a little bit of trial and error, looking at tools, looking at it. When it comes to goals, you asked about goals.
Right.
If you have a vision, if you have a long-term goal, great. If you don't, great.
Right.
I do not believe that everybody needs to have this dream. I was once a professor. I look at university and college students. Many of them have no idea what they want to do when they grow up.
Sure.
And that's perfect. That's great. But let's come up with then maybe the goals to find out what we want to do.
Yeah.
And to me, the long-term vision, if we have it, we can use it. If we don't have it, we do not need it. We can focus on what's now and what's next.
Right. Cool. Good. I love that. I love it. All comes back to the behaviors, for sure. When we have our setbacks and our failures and whatever we might call them, I saw another clip that you did that was really cool, and I like to play on these words right now. You talked about, instead of judgment, focus on evaluation. Talk more about that, because I thought of myself and I thought of some other people in my life where I could just offer to them and say, hey man, be gentler on yourself here. So that's great. Yeah. Expand on that a little bit, please.
So judgment is emotion. And I'm really just talking about judging yourself. Let's not talk about judging other people. That's
a whole other episode.
Right. So judging yourself is very emotional, and emotion trumps logic most of the time. And so the idea is to either work with your emotions or move them aside, so that we can then look at our performance. And so the video that you're talking about, like you said, I do my videos when I'm on the road. Many of them are. And this happened to be a trail run that I was on. Right. I hadn't done this trail run in a while. And I was looking at my time, and I was looking at my heart rate, and I was slow.
Right.
But instead of saying I'm slow and I suck,
yes,
I just looked and I said, okay, I'm slow. How can I pick up the pace? Is it my breath? Is it my stride? Is it where I'm looking? And now, because I'm more logical and leaving the emotions out of it, I can make some changes immediately and start to improve. Now, it also goes the other way. Like yesterday, for example, I went on a road bike and I underestimated myself. I actually thought that I was 3 minutes faster than I thought I would be. And that's great, but I also don't want to get too high. I don't want to say, oh my God, I am amazing.
Yeah.
I actually want to have a little bit of a pat on the back, celebrate that success,
Hmm.
but I want to keep it more even keel so that I'm not on this emotional roller coaster every time I go out and behave or perform.
Hmm.
And then that allows me to just evaluate what I'm doing well, what can I do better.
Right. I like it. So it's kind of staying off the emotional highs and lows, like I'm doing great or I suck, but really just to be in the moment and to focus on
Mm-hmm.
what you're doing and doing it to the best, fastest, strongest of your ability.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
token rewards, I'm a big fan of that. Like let's celebrate it.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely, right. But in the moment, just stay with it. Just stay with it.
Yeah.
So if you are, if you're in a race, and I'm thinking right now, our son Luke is running the New York City Marathon in a few days. His first one. He's been training. He ran in high school and he just ran a little bit in college. But he's physical. He stays in good shape. And he's gotten up to his 20 or 18 or whatever mile, 22 miles or something. Talk a little bit about this because you also in one of your videos and in your work you talk about the suckiness of something like when you're struggling and you're on a hard climb or Luke said something like he was at mile 17 or 18 in one of his long runs and he was talking to my wife Lisa and I on the phone and he said I got to that point and I'm like, man, this sucks, my legs are just gassed. And then like you, I think he really didn't judge, he evaluated and said, I guess this is what it's supposed to be like at mile 17 or 18 or 19. So talk more about that for people in sports, certainly, but even in life, when you have a struggle in a relationship or you've got a struggle at work with a problem, a customer, maybe a boss that's somewhat of a knucklehead, or too focused on their own career. What is like that mental block, that negative story? I'd like for you really to expand on that because I love it.
Yeah, and it's really important. The first thing that I would want to make sure that we all understand is that it sucks, but I don't suck, right? Because that's the judgment piece. But this sucks. This
Uh-huh.
struggle, this struggle, this conflict. I think that's life.
Mm-hmm.
Life is not always rainbows and butterflies. There are moments where it's going to be challenging. Now, if you have the ability to always see the bright side, why would I ever tell you not to do that? But
Right.
in moments like those, I actually don't have the ability to say, this is the best. I need to acknowledge the fact that this conflict, whether it's in a relationship, this challenge at work, if I get stuck on a chapter of a book that I'm writing, or
Mm-hmm.
if I'm doing my own exercise and it comes to a point where this is painful, like this is a hard part,
Mm-hmm.
acknowledge it.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you acknowledge it, instead of trying to like push it away or shout or just ignore it, you
Right.
acknowledge it, it becomes kind of smaller because you've accepted it.
Right.
Accept it with courage and steadfastness. And
Mm-hmm.
then it's okay, how can I bring again, and if you use your 3 words, your strengths, how can I make a move here?
Mm-hmm.
And if it's exercise, maybe it's your breath. If it's exercise, counting your reps, you tune into the work. If it's relationship, what question can I ask this person to start opening up a conversation? If
Mm-hmm.
I get stuck writing or creating content, maybe I start listening to your podcast to get some ideas, right? Well, how can I learn from Danny today, which will then inspire me? But
Right.
I make a move forward.
Mm-hmm.
And the judging, you don't even need to go there because you're distracting yourself away from the judgment
Right.
by taking some steps forward that's actually going to help you.
Yeah, I think that's so key. I always say it's not, positive thinking is not discounting the brutal facts of a situation, right? Whatever they
Right.
are, we deal with struggle, like you said, we deal with brutal facts that we need to deal through in the world. The positive thinking more is seeing yourself through it, seeing yourself take those actions, reaching out for some support to say, hey, it sucks right now for me and I need some help to get through this. So it's the combination of, you being a great skier you are. I remember in Aspen years ago when I lived there taking a mogul class, the instructor said, you're in the turn right now, right? Knees out over the skis, hands down the hill, and you're looking 2 turns down because you've already looked at this one. So it's that dance between being where you are and seeing where you're going. So if I'm on
Right.
the bike as you were, on that brutal climb, yeah, here I am. So let me tap into my breath. Let me tap into really feeling the revolution of my legs and knowing that I'm going there. Let me get back to here. Is that kind of what you think? Don't get too focused
Absolutely.
on the vision, although see where you're going, but then be in the moment.
Yeah, exactly what you said. You got to be in the moment, but then also it's that next step.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't, not to be too confusing, but for those of us who do have a vision,
Right.
And again, if you have it, let's use it. If you don't have it, don't worry about it. But if
Right.
you do have a vision, so for example, in that ride, I had done that ride before, so I know what the end looks like, and I
Mm-hmm.
can have a moment of just visioning myself,
Mm-hmm.
at the completion,
Mm-hmm.
get that energy boost, but then come right back to the moment. So
Right.
if we do have the ability to have that vision, just what it's going to look like when you push through, when you power through, but
Sure.
don't hold on to that, because that's distraction too. Get yourself back to the work.
I like that. I like that. So contemplate the finish line, but don't stay there because you're not there yet.
You're right, exactly.
Get
You're
your
not
ass
there
back
yet.
on the seat and start pedaling. Oh my gosh, I love it. I love it. How do you coach somebody? A lot of people in my life, myself included over the years, we have something that happens, whether, how we grow up in a family or parents, a coach, I had a really bad accident, and it really anchors some of that negative thought, that self-judgment, like, I'm not that worthy, I'm not that good. And I know the theory that you're talking about, right? That's a negative story. Let's replace that with a more positive one. Perfect. I mean, how do you really do it? Because many times for me, I can default right back to that negative one. It's like you really got to work your ass off to break that cycle. So,
Yeah.
and some people right now listening are probably nodding, just like you and I are. What do you do with them? Where okay, the first time it didn't work. Now I'm back to the negative thinking. Now I gotta. What's that like? What's that process like when you coach people?
So because there's so many different tools, one tool may not work for others. So if a certain type of self-talk you're using to try to reframe isn't working, maybe there's another. But I'm actually a big believer, in addition to that, is knowing our triggers.
Mm-hmm.
So let me just do something really simple, and a lot less significant perhaps than you going through what you went through with your experience.
Yeah.
um I get hungry at night for unhealthy foods,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sure I'm not alone in this one. So my sweet tooth comes out about 8 p.m. So I
Yes.
know that about myself. So at 7:30, at 7:45, I'm not going to wait till 8. 7:30, 7:45, I'm going to indulge in a healthier but still satisfying treat,
Mm.
so that so hopefully I prevent the trigger in the first place. So whatever our triggers are, whether it's, and who knows what trauma we've all experienced, and to
Right.
whatever level of significance that has on our life. But we also have to look at our triggers.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to then make, in sports, we call them what if plans. What if this goes wrong? What if that goes wrong? And then we have a what if plan, a preparation for the things that could overcome our strengths, get to us. We want
Right.
to get back on offensive play. So if we can, again, really look at our past, look at the things or the people or the words or the
Right.
states that impact us negatively, and then we create a plan,
Mm-hmm.
and we often need to do it ahead of time to prevent it from taking over.
Mm. So that's the preparation. That's the work, right? You have to do the work. And that's all around habits then, right? That's very much tied to habits, because you're trying to replace that habit of eating ice cream or cookies or whatever. And I resemble that comment as well, with, some celery and real good peanut butter or something. So
Yeah.
that's the key. So it's the same way then in relationships, in work. The trigger could be your boss, who always finds what you did wrong versus what you did right on a project, right? The trigger could be your significant other, partner, spouse, that always kind of throws zingers, parents, in-laws, whoever. So you've really got to plan. I love that. You got to plan ahead of time, knowing that zinger is going to come. And then, okay, what's my strategy to move past it? What's my
Yeah,
thought?
you
What's
have
my
to expect it.
response? What's my silence? Right.
Yeah.
Because again, the triggers, and I love you talking about this, the triggers lead to your emotions, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's almost like, the judgment, or just the kind of the awareness, or let me take a look at it. Yeah. I remember Kobe Bryant, you probably have heard this, and it was just, I only saw it a couple months ago, but it was just so cool, because I like stillness, like meditation. I like nature. Because that's where the human spirit is, right? Danny Bader's human spirit, Haley's, I believe, resides in stillness. And that's our most powerful source of energy. Connect with your own spirit in whatever way. I'm not talking about religion right now. There's an energy inside of all of us. It is not our heart, brain, and lungs. And when our body stops, that continues on. I know that. And we got to connect with it. So Kobe Bryant said something to the effect, I'll paraphrase. He said, I really work to be still, because then when my emotions, now I know what's going on, my thoughts will lead to my emotions, and I can really sit with them. I can welcome them. I can appreciate them. I can embrace them. Then, and this is so powerful, he said, then I can do with them what I want versus them doing to me what I want. And I think that's, you got that, right?
Yeah, it's amazing. Going back to that piece on judgment, if we can't completely, remove the emotion, well, let's, like Kobe just said, like what is it telling us?
Mm-hmm.
Athletes, and if you just go to sports, there are so many times when a parent will call me or an athlete. I just, it hurts me that my child is so upset over this loss, or an
Mm-hmm.
athlete. Why can't I get over this loss? Why
Mm-hmm.
am I so upset?
Yeah.
Well, wait a second. What does that upset mean? You're like, I'm happy that you're upset, because if you're not upset, why are you making all these sacrifices and exerting all this effort in the first place? You
Yeah.
didn't get what you wanted. Let's be upset. But then what does that upset tell us? It
Mm-hmm.
tells us that you care. It
Mm-hmm.
tells us that you believed you could do better.
Mm-hmm.
That's confidence. So, you actually, when we have the stillness, and anybody who engages in stillness, they're renewing energy in that stillness. It's recovery. And that energy allows you to, again, really understand that upset means is that you want something for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good thing if
Yeah.
we allow it to be, and then we can use it to go out there and shine.
Right. Right. Yeah. So use the upset emotion to analyze, or what's the word you use? Judgment versus
Evaluation.
evaluation, right? To kind of evaluate where we are and then make changes to strengthen things. Versus, as you said earlier, and I like this, I just had to repeat it again. This sucks. I don't suck.
Right.
That is pretty powerful. I'm going to hold on to that one for sure. And that comes down to habits. So I always say that our life is lived between our ears. How do the thoughts, and we've certainly talked about our thinking right now. How does one's thinking fit into the pursuit of their fulfillment, their resilience? What should people be doing to really rewire that? Like you say, don't wait for rock bottom. What are some things, some habits, some rituals, I guess, that you get your clients into right away, whether it be whatever? I'm curious to hear your answers, that you just start rewiring from the time you open your eyes and come back to life and that thing starts talking. What do you do to get that more positive and resilient and focused? What do you think?
Yeah, so Danny, it's a great question. And you mentioned the word preparation, right? It's all in the work. And there are so many things that we can't control. And there are so many things perhaps that life comes at us with unexpectancy, but there are a lot of things we can control, and there are a lot of things we can expect. And so what
Mm-hmm.
we want to do is take action before that. And how we do that is what you said, develop habits. But how do we develop habits? We develop habits with rituals.
Mm-hmm.
Something like 80% of what we do and how we think is habitual. We don't, you don't actually think about it, even though we're thinking about it. It's
Right.
subconscious, it's
Yeah.
self-regulated. But every single habit was once a ritual.
Mm-hmm.
There was a beginning of the first time for every thought, for every behavior. And then
Mm-hmm.
with repetition and frequency, it then became the habit. So repetition and frequency on the daily is
Mm-hmm.
important. I'll use myself as an example. One of the health improvements that I wanted to make was hydration. And I woke up it started off with me pouring a glass of water and lemon every night before I go to bed and putting it on my night table.
Okay.
And then every morning when I wake up, before I get out of bed, I drink that water. And it used to be like 2 ounces. Now I don't even have to do it the night before. I wake up, and the first thing I do is I drink 2 full glasses of water and lemon. It's now become a habit.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't wait for anything to get in my way.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to create rituals, but here's the catch, which I think some people miss. The rituals that we create need to be 100% within your control and 100% within your belief.
Mm-hmm.
Any ritual that you create, if you can say, oh, I wanted to do that, but,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have all these reasons why this got in your way, that got in your way, it's not a good ritual.
Mm-hmm. So
There
100%.
is no but. There is no but.
Yeah, yeah. 100% in your control, 100% in your beliefs. Yeah, I always work with people and say, don't, but just dismisses what you said before it. Many people have said that. I think Pat Croce, who was a good athlete in his own right, owned the Philadelphia 76ers for years and years ago. He said that, but just dismisses what you said before. So I like that. 100% in line with your control, 100% in your control of the ritual, and 100% in with your beliefs. So
No,
you're not
that's a
bullshit.
hard thing.
You're not
Right,
bullshitting.
you're not bullshitting.
Yeah.
Right. But it's not, that's a hard thing to do, because then if you don't do it, it's on you. And you have to be willing to accept that fact.
Right. So how do you get them? Because we're trying the ritual, the habit is getting them to a better place, a faster time, down 10 pounds,
Yeah.
decrease their debt, whatever it is. We have to believe that we can get there, right? So if I don't believe I can get there, I'm not going to do that ritual. How do
We
we
got to go smaller.
how do we strengthen the belief that yes, you can get there? And again, I know that's
Yeah.
probably not one size fits all, but what are some things we do? Like, if I was to say to you, Haley, and I trust your expertise so much, that's why I'm putting you on the spot right now. I've been doing workshops for a lot of years. I've done some keynotes here and there, a couple hundred people here and there, but I haven't really gotten to the 1,000, 2,000, 4,000 people audiences. And I really want to get there. But I don't know. I don't know if I don't know if I'm good enough. I don't know if my message is strong enough. I don't know if I believe I'm like a 5,000 person speaker.
So then I would ask you again, as I would
And you
ask
can send me an
anybody.
invoice for this coaching too.
No, we're good. We're good. I'm just so happy that you brought me on. So we'll go right there. But again,
Right.
even if I was working with you, which apparently I am now,
Yeah.
I would ask you, what are your three strengths? What do you bring? I know my three strengths.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I show up, I'm going to evaluate my performance based on whether I was bright, because that's one of my strengths. Bright. It's like what the sun gives the earth is what my brightness gives me. So what are your three strengths?
Mm.
And then the second question is, are you highlighting that?
Mm.
But remember, now I'm focusing on you. I'm not focusing on your likes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not focusing on any of that right now. I'm focusing on you. And then armed with that confidence, you got to go and ask for the ball.
Mm-hmm.
You want to go and ask, then you go and ask for the opportunity. Instead of hoping they come to you, you got to go and ask for it. But you can't do that without really knowing what it is I could tell you what you're offering,
Right.
but I could tell you that all day long. You need to know what you're offering, and then you need to go and ask for the job, ask for the experience, ask people to listen.
Come
That
back.
it will believe you when you come with your strengths.
Yeah, I like that. All right, good. Thank you for that pro bono coaching, my friend. Well, listen, I got a ton of notes here, and I'm sure here we are 40 minutes into it already. I'm sure everybody is taking a whole lot of notes, and a lot of the words that you gave, just the frameworks that you've given to people. The one that I like the best is this sucks, I don't suck. So it's really getting outside of yourself and just dealing with the circumstances versus who you are. Where could people go to find more about you? Oh, tell us about your book, though. You're writing a book, you told me. Tell us about that real quick.
Yeah, I'm writing a book. It's the title is Personal Podium. So, and I'm a big believer again on the fundamentals and on how-tos. So it's really those types of steps that's going to help everyone achieve their gold standard of performance in any pursuit, whether it's sport, fitness, relationship, wellness, business. Personal Podium.
Personal, and that'll be out when? Roughly.
Well, the first ugly draft is written, as we call it. But remember, that's not me judging it. That's just when I went to school to learn how to write. We always talked about getting your ugly draft done. You know it. Yeah. So that's done. So now I'm just diving back in and finessing it and making sure that my strengths are in there. Because other things get away. So I'm in the middle of getting that together now. But the best place for people to find me, honestly, is through my website, because people can opt in and get these weekly mental toughness moments. I put them all over social media, but you'll also get them right into your inbox. And you can always also connect with me directly. And I read every single message.
Good.
So if anyone wants to connect with me, go to my website at drhaleyperlus.com. Best place.
Yeah. Cool. I would recommend everybody go out there and just check it out over the next couple of days when you're, if you're working and you just kind of need a breather to reset. You got some great messages. It's a wonderful website. Some cool pictures and all. All right. So before we say goodbye right now, Haley, you are having breakfast with someone and you will unlikely never see them again. You're just going to go off into your life and they're going to continue on with theirs. And they're going to say, you know what, Dr. Haley, thank you so much. It's been great hanging out with you. What 2 or 3 things should I really focus on as I pursue the rest of my life to live a life of fulfillment and resilience? What 2 or 3 things would you give them?
Yeah, sure. So definitely the first one, as we mentioned again, is really come up with those 3 strengths of yours. That's really a daily representation of our purpose, who and what you want to be for yourself and others. Mm-hmm. So go out there, and I say this in the best way I possibly can. Show off your strengths. Go out there to the world, wherever you are, and highlight your strengths. So that would be number 1. The next one, as you mentioned, and I actually really like the way you said it, even though it was my words, you kind of took it. Yeah, it's things suck, I don't suck, right? So it's again, it's that evaluation. We got to learn how to shelve the emotional space.
Nice.
And here's the third thing we haven't touched on, but something new. When we're not feeling our best, or when we get overwhelmed or bombarded with our day, typically the question we ask ourselves is, what do I have to do next? What email do I have to respond? What call do I have to get on? What kid do I have to pick up? What do you get to do next? Who do I get to support? What do I get to learn? How do I get to be challenged? What do I get to do next? Because that is actually gratitude for you in your life. And we all know what gratitude does, but this is a very specific, actionable way to achieve gratitude for you and your life.
Right. That is perfect, right? Your 3 strengths. And, this sucks, I don't suck. And then be thankful for what you have. Yeah, I often tell people, or don't tell them, telling doesn't work, does it? Those of us that have children know that's true. But rather to offer people, they don't, the average person will breathe about 23,000 times a day. Your heart beats 100,000 times a day and pumps 2,000 gallons of blood. And people, they look at me, I'm like, that's automatic, right? Those bodily functions that are automatic, and yet they're not guaranteed. So that should not be a morbid and depressing thought. That should get you off your ass to say, let me get after this, let me create some good times and trust that I can move through the difficult ones.
I love that. Yeah, taking responsibility. In sports, we say that winning isn't loyal to anybody. Success, having a happy day is not a given. Having a, we got to go out there and take it. We got to go out there and grab it for ourselves.
Yeah, we do. Well, Haley, it has been wonderful to connect with you again. I just love all the experience and the insight and the real strong takeaways for people. So thank you so much. And I'll look forward to our paths crossing again.
I'm so happy you reached out. Thanks, Danny.
Oh, you got it. And everybody else, listen, thanks a lot for joining in on another episode of our Back to Life podcast. Certainly connect with Haley out there. She's got wonderful content. Share this, drop some comments if you'd like. And until the next episode, just remember that you are here to create lots of fulfillment and resilience in your life. So until next time, peace. Hi, everybody. Didn't I tell you that was going to be an amazing conversation? I enjoyed it so much. So many great nuggets in there. Dr. Haley and I could have talked for at least another hour or 2. A couple things that really landed for me was, number 1, you don't have to wait to hit rock bottom. If you're listening to this and you're struggling right now, just sit up, take a deep breath, hug yourself, and say, okay, I'm done. I'm moving in a more positive direction right now. You don't have to wait to rock bottom. Number 2 I really liked is she talked about tapping into the power of knowing and owning your top 3 strengths. And 3 is the right number because any more than that confuses our brain. And then designing your choices around that and letting those things move you past fear. She also talked about creating new habits, which I think were great. and getting out ahead of the trigger, right? The trigger is the part of that behavior that comes first before you engage in an action that maybe is undesirable for you. So when you're looking to create some new habits right now, you got to get out front, you got to anticipate the trigger coming, and you've got to already have in place some new rituals, new way of thinking, new actions, and they have to be 100% in your control and 100% in line with your beliefs. Very interesting there that she talked about those things. And then I really like how she talked about when we're going through the struggle and we may be producing an outcome, or maybe we're not performing as strongly as we want to in life and business and sports. And just to reframe it and say, you know what, right now, this sucks. I don't suck. And then learning from that and continuing to tap into that powerful reservoir of resilience and get after your life. So thanks a lot. Be sure to connect with Dr. Haley Perlus. All the notes are in here. All the information's in the notes. And be sure to share it and comment if you want as well. And until next time, get out there and create lots of fulfillment and lots of resilience, because that is what you are here for. Peace.